first Oscar and nomination for Margaret Sixel.
In 2016, at the 88th Oscars, Margaret Sixel was nominated and awarded the Oscar for Best Film Editing for her work on Mad Max Fury Road. This category can be a hard one to pin down because different genres of film require different styles of editing. However, in the case of Mad Max, it is hardly a debate. There is a lot going on in this movie, and it can get a little hard to keep track of. Fury Road really throws you into the middle of everything with very little context, even though there is so much going on at any given moment. So why did it so handedly win the Oscar for Best Film Editing then? Mad Max was nominated for a total of 10 Oscars, and won 6 of them. All of the ones that they won had to do with the design or the production aspect, all the pre and all the post, but none of the actual shooting itself. Mad Max is great, but the thing that really makes it shine are what you see and hear in the movie, not the actors or the direction. Most of the lines weren't set in stone and were ad-libbed or approximated day of. The focus of the film is not character heart-to-hearts. It's the action and the spectacle of it all. The biggest contributor to the spectacle was the editing, done by Margaret Sixel and her team. Visuals are visuals, and good camera work can be great, but too much of a good thing can still bore an audience, and in the case of action movies, make them numb to it. This is why some people find horror movies funny, or why some comedies just don't hit right. They don't stick the landing in the editing room. Mad Max's masterful use of editing keeps the audience engaged the whole time, and is what makes this movie as great as it is. The editors took the hundreds of hours of raw footage given to them and distilled it into a tight 2-minute movie. It's not like it's a short movie or anything, but knowing the amount that had to be sacrificed to get it to this length is absolutely boggling. George Miller had an estimated $150 million, that's right, $million budget with which to make this movie, much of which went into the 150 or so functioning vehicles seen in the movie, almost all of which were destroyed in their chrome glory throughout the shooting process, and a whole horde of cameras that at any given moment could be rolling. Sixel reportedly said that some scenes went through 25 renditions before being finalized. So not only did Sixel and her team have to cut and recut and rearrange
again and just
redo
going and going and cut again and cut.
All those hours of footage, but they had to make sure the audience didn't get bored. A chase can get tiresome if it's drawn out, and it'll lose tension, but not in Mad Max. In Sixel's own words, it's not about balancing the faster moments with the shorter ones. It's about pruning the scenes to their correct length. Pacing is everything, and keeping a scene in just because it looks cool won't do anybody any good. Think of an action movie that you've seen, or even one you've just heard of. This can be anything from the plot-heavy Marvel films that treat action almost like a byproduct of them being superheroes, all the way to John Wick and Jason Bourne, and even further to the Fast franchise and Transformers. I had to look up how many movies were in those last two. There are so many. Now don't come for me in the comments when I say that, especially those last two examples, despite being loved by many, are not the most cinematic or well-edited movies. They're not bad, they follow standard conventions of invisible editing, but they don't stand out. And if your main objective when you see these movies isn't to watch cars or, I guess, robotic cars speed around and fight, you're gonna be disappointed. That is to say, if you're watching Mad Max for the plot, you might be in the wrong genre, but nothing in Mad Max's action feels out of place or forced. This is the brilliant thing that sets it apart and gives it its little gold star. Every moment feels like it's justified, and this comes from 2 different places in the editing. The first is that it is motivated by story. For example, in a scene known to the editing team as the Nitro Derby, Slit, a high-ranking war boy, races ahead of the pack to cut off the war rig. This moment adds a low level of building tension at the beginning of the 3rd act, but its motivation comes from character conflict between Slit and Nux, a former war boy who defected and joined Furiosa and co. Without the character's personal motivation, it can feel like the editors just needed to put something there and take the audience out of the moment. The second mode of justification comes from cluing the audience in on what the hell is going on. This means using anticipation and match-on action so that we know where a spear or explosion are coming from. This means multiple perspectives of the same thing to really drive how extreme something is. This means extreme wide shots to give context for just how screwed our main characters are. All of these work together to keep the viewer from becoming lost and to keep the action from becoming senseless. These are all parts of keeping an audience engaged through editing. You gotta keep them in the moment. The pacing has to be just right. Every cut has to be motivated. and the audience, under no circumstance, can get lost in the mix. Mad Max did all of this just right, and when it came to the Oscars in 2016, they got what they deserved. An award, some very subdued, polite applause, and an orchestra to play them off the stage. What? It hasn't been that long, has it?